Imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet room, staring at a number on your screen. Not your bank balance, not your salary, just a number that feels strangely powerful for something so abstract. 832. You didn't celebrate when you first started building it. There was no moment where it felt important. It grew slowly, quietly in the background of your life. A payment made on time here, a balance kept low there. Years of doing things right without any immediate reward. But now, seeing that number, something feels different. Not because your life suddenly changed overnight, but because of what that number represents. Control, discipline, predictability, and more than anything, access. At first, nothing dramatic happens. You still wake up the same way, your routine doesn't shift, your income hasn't magically doubled. But then, small moments begin to reveal a difference. You apply for something, and instead of hesitation, there's approval. Not just approval, but ease, better terms, lower rates, fewer questions. The system seems to trust you in a way it didn't before, and that's when you start realizing something subtle but important. Your financial identity has changed. Not your money, not your lifestyle, but how the system sees you. And that changes how opportunities show up. Because in the modern financial world, access is everything. Two people can earn the same income, live similar lives, and yet experience completely different realities simply because of how they are perceived by the system. One gets options, the other gets limitations. And that perception is often built quietly over time through behaviors that don't feel significant in the moment. But here's where it gets interesting. Reaching a high credit score doesn't just open doors, it creates a new kind of psychological environment. Because now, you're operating in a space where things become easier to obtain. Credit becomes cheaper, limits become higher, approvals become faster. And with that ease comes a new kind of pressure. Not external pressure, but internal. The temptation to use that access simply because it's available. Because the system doesn't reward restraint, it rewards participation. It offers you more because you've proven you can handle it, but it doesn't tell you whether you should take it. And this is where the real shift happens, not in your score, but in your decision-making. Because the same discipline that built that score is now being tested in a different way. Before, you were limited. Now, you're not. And how you behave without limitations reveals more about your financial life than how you behaved with them. Around this point, it's worth pausing for a moment. If you're watching this and realizing that financial progress isn't just about earning more, but about how systems respond to you, you're on Prime Gorilla, where we break down the deeper psychology behind money, access, and modern financial life. If this perspective is making you think differently, take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who's focused only on income but not structure, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because once you zoom out further, a deeper pattern begins to emerge. A high credit score doesn't make you wealthy, it makes you trustworthy in the eyes of the system. And that trust can be used in two very different ways. It can become a tool for leverage, allowing you to access opportunities that can grow your financial position. Or it can become a trap, making it easier to take on commitments that slowly reduce your flexibility. And this is where human behavior becomes the deciding factor, because access without intention often leads to expansion. Higher limits lead to larger purchases, better rates make bigger loans feel reasonable, and before you realize it, your financial structure begins to grow around your new level of access, not because you needed to, but because you could. And that distinction is everything. The irony is that the moment you become most capable of managing credit is also the moment when it becomes easiest to misuse it, not recklessly, but subtly, through decisions that feel justified. A slightly better car because the rate is lower, a slightly bigger home because approval came easily, a few more commitments because the system says you can handle them, and each decision on its own makes sense, but together they create a life that is more dependent on maintaining that access than you originally intended.
This is why everything changes after you reach a score like 832, not because the number itself transforms your life, but because it changes the environment you operate in. It removes friction, and friction, as uncomfortable as it is, often protects people from overextending. When friction disappears, discipline has to take its place, and discipline is something the system cannot enforce. It's something you have to choose. Over time, this leads to a deeper realization. The real value of a high credit score is not in how much it allows you to borrow, it's in how much control it gives you over when and why you choose to borrow. It's not about maximizing access, it's about using access selectively. Because every time you use credit, you're not just making a financial decision, you're shaping your future obligations. You're deciding how much of your future income is already spoken for. And that leads to the final perspective shift. A high credit score is not a reward, it's a responsibility. It gives you the ability to make bigger decisions with fewer barriers, but it also increases the consequences of those decisions if they're made without intention, because the system will continue to trust you, even if you start making choices that slowly reduce your freedom. The people who truly benefit from high credit are not the ones who use it the most. They're the ones who understand when not to use it, who recognize that access is not the same as necessity, and who protect their flexibility even when the system offers them more than they need. If this video made you rethink what a credit score really represents, then you're already seeing beyond the surface.
If this video opened your eyes, make sure you subscribe, because what you learn today can save your future tomorrow.